Hey there folk, how are y'all doing? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I come to you with a doll that has been, well, literally months into my head. Last spring, or maybe it was early summer, I'm not too sure, I was talking with the amazing Nerdy Capybara, which is another doll artist here on YouTube, and we thought it would be nice to collab together. We settled on fairy tales as a theme, and together with the lovely Stitchwick Witch, whose name is apparently a tongue twister for me, we created this lovely lineup. So you have from left to right, Nerdy Capybara's take on Snow White and Rose Red, then you have my doll in the middle, and Lex's Rapunzel is on the right. Also, I will add that we did not collectively decide on using Ever After Eye dolls, but the fact that we did, I think, just add a little something else to this collab. Though now, without further ado, let's dive into the repaint proper, so you can see how I handled the lovely Thumbelina. First thing I did to start this project was starting by making a sketch of the vision that I had in my mind. I deviated a bit from it in the end, but I think it still holds at least for a bit. I wanted to make Thumbelina as she is at the end of her story, ready to marry a fairy prince. So it was a fairy princess bride project. For the hairstyles, I definitely wanted to do something that reminded me a bit of the Don Bluth movie that I watched as a child. This movie specifically just holds such a nostalgia power for me personally. It was one of my favorite, and I think it's mainly because I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. I saw the movies Bertomer Tales because, well, they are, but there was only one that I really loved. For this project, I chose a Ashlynn Hella doll. It had been a while since I worked on an Ever After Eye doll after all. And of course, the first thing I had to do was to prepare the doll for customizing, which mainly included the removal of her hair and the original factory painted face. To make the process easier, I removed the head of the body, but I did so off camera. I did so by leaving the head to soak for a few minutes in a mug of boiling water, and once the vinyl was softened, it became much easier to pull the head off without risking to damage the fragile neck peg that is inside. There was quite a lot of glue inside the doll's head, so I elected to carefully open it up to remove it all a bit easier. The hairstyle that I was going for and the way I was going to do it allowed me to be able to do that surgery without making the whole process harder on myself. To remove the factory paint, acetone is usually the best thing you can use. I am using a heavy-duty nail polish remover with a very high content in acetone. Off camera, I used a big needle and thread to sew close the opening that I created on the vinyl head, which is actually pretty solid. And then I painted the scalp in a color that will match the hair. I used acrylic paint. Thumbelina's hairstyle is going to be a partial reroute. I did though process the yarn into hair beforehand. I use 100% acrylic yarn, and I start by cutting pieces of a decent length, I would say about 20 centimeters long. Then I carefully unravel them, and I start pulling on the fibers, breaking the strands into, well, fibers. The longer you do it, the finer the texture you will get. It will shorten the strands too over time, so you have to kind of feel it around to get the length that you want. Then I simply keep on pulling and alternating with some flat ironing until I get the fibers to a point that I like. This technique uses no brush, and honestly I feel like it minimizes also the loss of material, though it can feel like you're putting in a bit more effort, but I personally think it's worth it and I won't be brushing yarn anymore if I can help it. Once I have a decent amount of hair ready, I start rerouting. For Thumbelina's ponytail I will reroute only the perimeter of the head. I tried glued hair recently for that look, but I think rerouting is giving a cleaner finish. Since I grabbed the hair strands by the ends, for maximum length, I try to tuck in the ends neatly into the holes if they poke out after I've added a plug. To help me center and secure the ponytail, I've glued the pin of her head and painted it brown to match. To create the voluminous bump that is on top of her ponytail, I made a little cushion with scrap fabric, and I stuffed it with yarn fluff that is left over from a past project. Then I covered the cushion with a bit of yarn using Mod Podge, just to make sure that it will blend well since my reroute was purposely not very thick, an artistic choice. I secured it with some more pins and then I used a bit of sewing thread to shape it. I will have to add some weft in the end too, just to cover it well, but I ended up with a nice shape. I used a bit of air gel too to help me with that. To make wefts, I simply used the glued method that was popularized by Mosquito a few years ago. I take some processed hair and I lay them on a plastic surface. Then I sandwich the ends with any kind of white glue, Mod Podge here, and I let it dry completely. Then when it's done, I can trim the glue edges straight and it's ready for use. I made this here mainly for a ponytail extension. Yarn can only get you so far when it comes to length or thickness. To make the extension, I wrapped varying amount of wefts around a complete strand of yarn. I wrapped them on a few height level, if that makes sense, starting from the bottom and going up. I think I had 3 different levels here. You can glue this of course, but I decided to unstitch them as it was a bit faster. I wrapped the hair that was already there out of the way, and then I added the extension permanently to the hairstyle by stitching it under the ponytail. I used the hair already secured in place on the head as my anchor point. To hide any stitching or glue, I added a little braid at the base of the ponytail. It was stitched in place, and I tucked the ends underneath. I covered the hair with a piece of scrap fabric to start working on the face. As usual, the doll head was primed beforehand with 3 coats of Mr. Super Clear sealant. letting the sealant dry well between each coat. Then I roughly sketched the eyes and started the process. The first step for me is done using soft pastel powders. I add blushing, but also contouring and sometimes even highlighting, a bit like a makeup artist would do to a human face. I also add a bit of foundation for future elements too. I start slowly and I work in layers, adding some sealant every time I feel like I can't build the colors more or when I want to save my progress. Some elements, like the eyebrows, can be a bit more difficult, so I like to sketch them with powders first. It's easy to erase them at this stage if I ever don't like them or if I need to work on the shape a bit. A knigging eraser can be really handy. The second stage involves watercolor pencils. I use them dry. The sealant gives me a good surface that can take the pigment. It's often described as paper-like. My main focus here is on blocking the colors, and I start to define and placing all the details, especially around the eyes. The eyelashes can be another hard detail to add, so I try to sketch them in lighter colors at first, so I can erase and retouch more easily as I go. The third and last stage is the one I focus on the most nowadays. I use paint and the smallest nail-hard brushes that I can find. I use watercolors and gouache with a little bit of water, and I go to define the finest details and add accents of colors where it needs a bit more help. I feel like my face-up style is evolving in a new direction these past couple of months, and I am not mad about it at all. Though, to be honest, I'm a tiny bit scared of going overboard, but I guess for that we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so I did an oopsie here. I messed up in the irises with the paint and I used a damp paper towel to remove some of it, and apparently I had not properly sealed the layers under it, so I lost much more pigment than I expected to. Though instead of starting over from the beginning, I decided to just pick it back up and start building on top of it. I want to add that I remove paint like that often in some of my earlier projects, but I never did remove as much of the underlying pigment. It really proves that you need to properly make sure that you seal well between layers. Next time I might add an extra coat of MSC, just to make sure, for security. I really want to start with fluffier eyebrows and eyelashes and some texture too. It took a bit of work here, and I used a few different shades of brown to bring dimension and bring it all together, but ultimately I think I'm really happy with it. I like this new direction. I finished the face by painting some edges, and of course, I will add some glossy varnish to the mouth as well, but off camera. The whole head was then finished with a few more braids, some flowers, all elements stitched to the head, I precise, and a few curls on the back. The first thing I did when starting on the garment was to mold her chest using white fabric and a few coats of Mod Podge. I used a bit of kitchen plastic to shield the body from the glue. This will be a piece that would hold everything together. To make a kind of loose mermaid-shaped skirt with a bit of a train, I cut the fabric using this shape, though I ended up thinking it wasn't big enough, so I made a second one a bit larger this time. I then end-stitched a trim of lace at the bottom on the wrong side, so only a bit would peek through. I cut off all the excess width at the end. I first thought that adding a layer of embroidered lace could look good, but I removed it a bit later. I think it was taking away from the piece, especially from the fact that it was meant to be a wedding dress. Instead, I opted for a second layer of white fabric with trims, which I think complemented the bustier well, who was decorated with pieces of cut lace that I glued using Mod Podge. I then looked into adding some accents to the hips to marry the top and bottom together and also to emphasize the curves of the body. To add another light pop of color, I decided to use that beautiful pink lace to make flowery pieces attached to the arms. My only issue was that this lace had the word Paris and little Eiffel Towers embroidered on it. So to break it up a bit, I just added a few lazy daisy embroidered flowers to strategic spots, so it takes from it a little bit. To make the wings, I went through many ideas, but in the end I settled on more white lace. I used my laminator machine to sandwich them between plastic sheets. I could only then add a makeshift pin or something along those lines to secure it on the back of the doll by pursing a small hole for it. When it came to give her shoes, I decided to use these absolutely gorgeous and intricately detailed ones that I got from Lady Dynamite Creates. She sells those on her Etsy shop. Though I had to add thicker soles in the end on them because when I made the dress, I accounted for the fact that most Monster High shoes are platforms. I easily did the modification I needed using air-dry foam clay, but these were honestly not the best choice, as the wings on the shoes does pull on the skirt a bit. Though while repainting them, I also put together a giant fake tulip using parts of other fake flowers to serve as a wedding bouquet. And then, after adding a few more last-minute details as well as some blushing on her arms and shoulders, I finally finished this project. I had already taken her pictures back then, but at the very end I did change the flower closest to her face, since it has a crooked petal and it was bugging me to no end. There I noticed it. How I did not see it before, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. But here I changed it. Now folks, please do me a solid and go watch the videos by my friends Nerdy Capybara and Stitchwick Witch. That name is just so hard for my French-Canadian accent, I'm sorry. But these dolls, I say, they are simply amazing, and those talented people deserve all the love in the world and also the views too, because of course we need to feed the algorithm gods. As for now folks, this may be my last upload for 2022, as I am very busy and the holidays are asking a lot out of me like each year, but I promise you that I'll be back soon with plenty. I actually have some big projects in motions and I just cannot wait to invade it all. In the meantime though, please, stay safe, but also stay happy during the holidays. And don't forget about self-care. It's not selfish to take care of our mental health. So see you soon, friends. Bye!